Welcome back everyone. Episode 1 of Silo Season 2 opens with a flashback scene set in Silo 17, where the rebels took on the IT and judicial departments with the help of makeshift bridge and shield. But IT, judicial and the raiders who had guns won. They managed to walk out of the doors of their silo in a triumphant mood, but all of them ended up dying after being exposed to the toxic air outside. In the present day, Juliet crosses the boundary of the silo she was in, traverses the land between silo 18 and 17, and then comes across the thousands of skeletons of the rebels from silo 17. After making it past the walkway of silo 17 and the gates leading to the spiral staircase, which she opens successfully with a crowbar due to her experience in mechanical, Juliet realizes two things. The heat tap on her suit has degraded, and her suit is running out of oxygen. She is too close to the surface and at risk of being exposed to the toxic air that has entered the silo from outside. And that's why she can't take off her suit immediately. But her suit doesn't have enough oxygen to take her to the innermost floors of the silo. So she wings it, makes it to the winding staircase section of silo 17, rips apart her suit, and avoids dying of consuming poisonous air. This proves that these suits were not built to last long, and their makers wanted the wearer to die within the view distance of the people in the silo, thereby striking the fear into their heart. The heat tape on the suit was faulty, and the oxygen levels in the tank didn't allow the wearer to take a long trip, because that would prove that there were other silos and survivors out there, thereby paving the way for more rebellions in the silo. That's why the authorities were so angry when Juliet had stolen the kind of heat tape that would prevent the toxic gas from entering the suit, because they didn't know who would use it to break the carefully crafted illusion of the IT department. Well, Juliet has done it. This still doesn't exactly explain why someone was peddling the lie that there was a lush green landscape outside, thereby promoting more and more people to defect and then die. Some theory states that illusion is used to trick people into thinking that they are fighting for the truth and exposing the lies of the silo, when in reality they are just being forced to go outside to clean the optic senses and give the rest of the members of the silo a clear view of the landscape. If that's the case, then that's just cruel. Therefore, kudos to Juliet for not using the perks that came with the heat tap on her suit to clean the optic senses of the silo 18 and give the higher-ups what they want. Instead, she chose to make the trip to silo 17, even though it's a decrepit state, doesn't inspire a lot of hope. In the first season of Silo, we saw how young Juliet decided to work in mechanical after her mother died by suicide and her father Pete buried himself in his job as a doctor to cope with the loss of his wife. Season 2 delves further into her time down there, how she learned the ropes and her bond with Shirley and Walker. We see a young Shirley assisting a Juliet on her first day on the job and introducing her to two veterans, Barney and Gladys. Shirley didn't reveal the reason why Juliet had joined the mechanical. She just said that Juliet had lost a bet and been relegated from the midst to the deep down. Barney was evidently caring altogether because he immediately started explaining how the scrapping and recycling worked, even though Juliet knew all about it. In case you have forgotten, the topsiders would discard the stuff that had either broken down or was of no use to them. That would reach mechanical, and while most of it would be chucked into the incinerator, some of it would have potential to repair, and that would go to Walker. One piece of advice that Juliet got was to keep drinking water until her urine wasn't even slightly yellow, because if she got dehydrated due to the extreme heat and collapsed on the conveyor belt before them, her hair could be ripped off along with her scalp. I have a feeling that Gladys was saying all that from experience. Anyway, Juliet spotted a toy that had been discarded and she wanted to fix it, but everyone advised against it because it wasn't worth their time. Since Juliet was fixed on it, Shirley tried to change the topic by asking her if she wanted to live with her. Juliet turned down her proposal in a pretty rude fashion though, unintentionally, and it got to Shirley. Later on, Walker pointed out that there weren't a lot of young people in the deep town, and living with Shirley would give her and Juliet the opportunity to grow up together without constantly talking about death. Juliet and Walker's conversation was briefly centered around whether the former should prioritize fixing her toy over repairing a rundown piece of junk. And then they started discussing the death and how Juliet should just accept that her mother had killed herself instead of trying to believe that her mother had just died. Realizing that she was doing the thing that old people usually do, Walker shared an anecdote about having someone to communicate with during the worst of times. That seemingly prompted Juliet to make it up to Shirley by giving her the repaired toy as a gift. Shirley was hesitant about accepting her apology, but after a little nudge from Barney, she kept the gift, thereby starting her journey of friendship with Juliet. Later on the episode, we get another scene between Shirley and Juliet, where the former took her to the prohibited area where the silo drills are kept. Shirley talked about being abandoned there by knocks on her friends in the dark and how she would slowly made it back to the deep down. Juliet admired her courage and told her that she couldn't have done that if she was in the same situation. Shirley basically said that when one has the will to survive, they can surpass all odds. Coming back to Juliet in the present day, she finds a set of clothes and clean water that's suitable for consumption. While taking a tour of that place, she eventually arrives at the spot where the Ripples and the fascist of Silo 17 made their last stand. While everything in the silo is dark, the lights over at the spot where the fascists had created their garrison are still glowing. So obviously, that piques Juliet's interest, and she decides to rappel down from the overhead bridge. For that she needs a rope. Now apparently, the rebels of Silo 17 had hung the riders from the bridge, and the rope wasn't around their necks, it was around their waist. Hence, it's possible that these riders died of hunger. That's absolutely brutal. Anyway, Juliet pulls up the skeletons of the riders, takes the rope, and tries to swing across the gap in the walkway that connects the spiral staircase to the floor that was previously bridged by the rebels' makeshift bridge. She fails and seemingly falls to her death. However, the silo has evidently been flooded, and the water breaks Juliet's fall. The impact has hurt her, but she lives to die another day. To avoid getting hypothermia, Juliet gets a fresh set of clothes and tries to bridging the aforementioned gap with a makeshift bridge. She almost falls into the water again, but she manages to hoist herself up and make it to the other side of the walkway. At the end of Silo Season 2 Episode 1, as Juliet begins exploring the area, she realizes that all this effort was pointless because there is nothing of importance over there. She finds the bridge that the rebels had made and used to get back to the spiral staircase. She is stopped in her tracks by the sound of a song. At this point, I thought that Juliet was hearing things because she was too desperate for any sign of life. But no, the sound is real and is coming from a vault in the area that she had just explored. There is a corded lock on the door, which prevents Juliet from opening it. As she starts to walk away from it, a mysterious man opens the sliding peephole and warns Juliet that if she tries to open the door again, he is going to kill her. No one really survived except for that one person, who ironically called himself Solo. Throughout the episode, he had been keeping an eye on Juliet and her actions. I guess he was the one who cut off the extra ropes from the bridge, so Juliet couldn't use them to reach the lower levels where he had been hiding, as he feared Juliet would kill him if she found him. I guess there's a reason why the present timeline was intricate with a flashback where we saw a teenage Juliet bonding with a young Shirley. She once took a young Juliet to the prohibited area where the drills were left. Shirley told her about an incident where her friends left her alone in the dark room and grim space, and she had to find her way out alone. It's quite evident that Juliet is going to take her best friend's advice and find the light at the end of the tunnel by walking very slowly. As much as we know from the first episode, the rebels had flooded the generator room and Juliet could not power up the Silo 17 without accessing it. Yes, I know you saw a table fan running, but that's not from the generator. It's from the backup power supply that had already been mentioned in the third episode of the previous season. Even in the event of total power failure, the resident of the silo can use backup power to run a few gadgets for emergencies. So at this juncture, Juliet can do one of two things. She could contact other silos for help, but would anyone reply to the SOS? or she could use her expertise and experience from the mechanical to fix the generator. I believe that was the reason why we were getting so many flashbacks about Juliet's life. Yes, the show wanted to underline that fact that she had the means of talent to survive to her own, which many from IT or judicial lacked. However, currently the generator room is flooded, and Juliet has a fear of water, which has already been established in the previous season when she tried to go to underwater after Jude's death to find the tunnel he had been talking about before his murder. The first episode of season 2 again visited Juliet's fear and made it quite clear that she cannot swim. So how is she going to fix the generator? And even if such tunnel exists, which connect all the silos in the world, then again, Juliet needs to get rid of the flood water to reach home. I'm sure the upcoming episodes will explore how she going to overcome the obstacles on her way back to her friends. But if you have read the book, you already know the answers. If you find any reference during the episode that I didn't talk about in this video, please write them down in the comments. Thanks.